There's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with making profits. On the contrary, a company has to make profits, otherwise it's useless, because it will not provide jobs and it will not pay taxes. There's nothing wrong with that. But everything is wrong. Everything is wrong if making money is the only purpose of an economic activity. But that's the reason why I believe that in years to come, probably the most important element of the economic culture in our societies will be to develop a much stronger corporate social responsibility. And by its very nature, that has to do
right now is briefly introduce each of the panel members. And they're going to spend just a couple of minutes, each of them, talking about that critical trend. That trend that every leader in the world needs to pay attention to. So on my left here, German Brooks, welcome. Just settle down a little bit, will you there, guys? Okay. German's had a great career in business and now, interestingly, has had 8 years in the NGO, IGO community, including being a director of Transparency International. He was the chair of the AIESEC International Supervisory Group until 2005. And much of the success that the groups have had was because of his tremendous contributions. But he also tells me now that he's in the world of IGOs and NGOs that he still has to keep his head grounded. So he also has a board position on an engineering company as well. So would you mind sharing a little bit with us, please, Joe?
Well, thank you very much indeed, and good morning, everyone. It's really great to be here and see so many faces that I haven't seen for a long time, and to renew friendships. I'd like to talk about 6 challenges. I'm going to be pressed for time, so I'm going to have to talk rather fast, which is my natural mode of communication anyway. And if I talk about 6 crises confronting us, I'd like you to understand them as really calls for action and opportunities to benefit from solutions, rather than just see it from a pessimistic point of view. So the first, number one, I think that we're all concerned about is climate change. What is going to happen when sea levels rise? We were talking about this at a recent GRI conference in Holland. Holland, on average, is 1.5 meters below sea level, so this was a very important issue for them. What is the vision of the world by 2050 unless we deal with climate change? Are we too late to deal with climate change? So really, reflections back from you on some of those questions. The energy crisis. The energy crisis is all-consuming. It's all-consuming because the need for increasing use of energy is out there. At the same time, we have the end of easy oil. We have dependency in many countries on just a very few sources of fossil fuels. We have the big energy companies going into unconventional energy sources like oil, shale, oil sands, which again produce even more CO2. And we have still a very, let's say, delicate program of development of renewable.
Rob, it's great to have you here. Founder of Renaissance 2, and now to all the French speakers in the world are about to cringe at an Australian's ability to pronounce the name of your chateau. Okay, so he's also the founder of Chateau, Le Tour Apollinaire. Not bad, okay, good. Sustainable Learning and Innovation Lab. So welcome, and let's hear your thoughts.
Well, thank you, Martin. And it's been refreshing to meet all of you last night and this morning. And I share with, I'm afraid, with German a degree of skepticism and a degree of deep concern. I remember 35 years ago standing with a placard at Jan Smuts Avenue in Johannesburg that said, "Free Nelson Mandela." And there were thousands of us doing this. Us student politicians, leaders, whatever, we didn't have any idea whether or not Nelson Mandela would ever be released. But last night, I believe he did celebrate his 90th birthday in London, in Hyde Park. So we can make things happen if we, no matter how old we are, if we're determined to do so, and there are enough of us who are determined to do it. Barack Obama is another wonderful example today. But I just want you to look over there on the right. I've got a few slides. I'm not going to spend very much time on them, but if we could just flip to the first slide. We have some bad news, and I'm not going to go through this entire slide in detail, but one of the things that really kills me is when I get in a scuba diving suit and I go down in the ocean today, I don't see any more coral. I don't know how many of you scuba dive here, but half of them are dead. It's terrible because they die, it's all white, it's ugly, it's compared to this beautiful ecosystem that we used to have. They're very sensitive. We have a quarter of the species on our planet are already extinct. 1/4. And up to a half of all the species on our planet are going to face extinction this century. This is a mind-blowing number. You know, for human beings, a temperature increase of 6 degrees Fahrenheit is certain death. Well, for a planet, a temperature increase of 6 degrees centigrade is a death sentence for 90% of all species, including us. Now, we have 10 years. The good news, if we could shift to the next slide, is that there are people taking action. Peak oil, the digital knowledge economy mean we have global awareness. We all understand the consequences of what we're doing. There are tens of millions of leaders thinking and acting globally, rather than simply trying to make a buck in the short term. And for the sake of the planet, we have to empower this kind of leadership by connecting people up with each other, and also by connecting the current generation of leaders with the new generation of leaders. And that's one of the reasons I think AIESEC is absolutely fundamental in this equation. Over the past 7 years, we've been researching some of the solutions that are taking place to this dilemma, whether it's what Al Gore or Jeffrey Sachs, Amory Lovins, William McDonough are doing, whether it's what the UN, the IPCC, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, businesses like Shell, Hewlett-Packard, Nokia, Dow, Interface, HSBC, all focused on not just being carbon neutral, but making a huge difference out there in the world. And we also see people, tycoons, cultural popular leaders like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Richard Branson, George Soros, Bono, Bill Clinton, and so on, all showing the way in terms of how we can use our philanthropy. But there's a time now to shift from the age of reason to a global renaissance, which is why we call it a second renaissance. Because the first renaissance was really about Europe taking control of the global stage for the last 500 years. And as Vice President Verheugen has said, what we now need to do is to shift that to a global basis. We're seeing shifts in practices around the world where we can see on the left-hand side, I'm not going to go into the details here, but we've done amazing things in the last 500 years. We have a huge cause for celebration. And in fact, on the right-hand side, you will see even more amazing things to come. We have 70% of the technology we need right now to solve climate change. 70% of the technology. And if you could flip to the next slide, please. We also have a lot of the key ingredients for global governance and, sorry, thanks, back to what we're talking about as a postmodern academy. There was a guy called Ficino who started the first academy in the first Renaissance. There were less than 1,000 people involved in the first Renaissance, coming out of the Dark Ages. Now, Jeffrey Sachs estimates that it would cost 2.4% of our global national product, in fact, just of the donor country global national product, to create a sustainable world. Yeah, 2.4%. And a fair... So at Renaissance 2, if we can flip to the next slide, we have a threefold mission. One is a mission around leadership, to create a sustainable business model for planet Earth. We need people who understand how to build a sustainable planet, sustainable businesses, and all of you in this room are part of that, and we'll know people who are also part of it. So the point is to get out there and actually act now, as opposed to simply talking and talking and talking, which is, there's a lot of talking on. The second piece is practices. We need world-leading practices and strategies in design, innovation, and sustainability. And so the Renaissance 2 Academy we founded is designed to actually create those practices together with world leaders in their different fields. And the third piece is projects. We have to get people out there doing projects in communities, in organizations, which are led by people who have these capabilities. So to finish off, we have a unique opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. For For the first time in the history of mankind, we actually have the power, the money, the technology, the wisdom, the intelligence to create an abundant future for all of us, not just for the Europeans and the Americans. We also have the power to destroy our biosphere and 90% of all the species on this planet. In the next 10 years, we have to learn to be the change and also do the change faster than anyone has ever done it. So my challenge to you, all of you here, is we have in our hands the ability to create a new renaissance or a new dark age. And my challenge to you is to think, well, what would you prefer? What's going to be your choice?
Thank you very much, Robin.